Hello and welcome to Everyday Tarot, your daily dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, healer, tarot enthusiast, and professional witch, and today I'm talking about dream interpretation. Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers daily insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every day, Monday through Friday, for fresh perspectives and empowering guidance from the tarot as interpreted by me. If you love the show, the best way to support it for free is by listening daily, leaving a review, and subscribing or following in your favorite podcast app. I am offering a 12-week Tarot for Transformation live course this summer. We're starting at the end of the summer. We're going to be starting in late September. So if you're interested, I have a sign up for more information, and I just created the full landing page, so that will be sent out to anyone who signs up that's interested. I'll also be posting it on my Instagram as well. If you're interested in crafting your own tarot cards and learning how to do so, you can get my full workshop with a recording, examples I've created, journaling questions, and a PDF to walk you all through it for just $33. The link is in the show notes to purchase that now. I just updated my Patreon benefits to be bigger and better than ever. So if you want an individual card pulled for you once a month live on the podcast, you can join the Everyday Tarot Patreon family at the Lovers level. If you'd like to support the podcast even further, you can get a one-time individual 5-card reading in addition to all the other benefits if you join the Witch Bitch level on the Patreon. I just did my new moon and Virgo collective tarot reading on August 21st. We move into Virgo season starting at 11 p.m. on August 22nd, 2025, at least in Pacific time. So I do have the replay link if you didn't get to watch live, is in the show notes, also on my Instagram. If you're local to the greater Puget Sound area, join us at our next Let's Talk Tarot meetup group event. I'll also be creating a virtual tarot card crafting event again, so we can craft together, this time with less introduction and more just chat and crafting. So that will be coming up soon. So join the meetup group to get notifications for that. If you're interested in my free PDF with the 2025 5-card tarot spread I created just for you at the beginning of this year, you can get that by joining my newsletter list. My weekly newsletter always has the most up-to-date information on upcoming events, presentations, musings, and more. And if you don't already know, I'm a sex and relationships therapist and coach, seeing clients virtually all over from my home office. I love working with queer, poly, and witchy clients, so if you'd like to work with someone that doesn't judge you, is witchy just like you, and helps you learn how to deal with anxiety, chronic pain or illness, communication issues, self-advocacy, and sex, head to my website and book a free consultation now to start your journey. You can find the links for any of these offers in the show notes or on my website, CamilleASaunders.com/everydaytarot, in addition to the images of the cards I pull in each episode. Alright, so welcome to season 13, where I'm talking all about divination in the Harry Potter series, and today I'm talking about dream interpretation. So let's see, I grew up reading all the books from elementary school on. We read them as a family, or my parents read them to us when we were young. I am in Slytherin house. My favorite book is Half-Blood Prince. My favorite movie is Goblet of Fire. I've been a MuggleCast podcast listener, so a Harry Potter podcast, since 2006. They started in 2005. Yes, people have been podcasting that long, and they just celebrated their 20-year anniversary of podcasting, which is incredible. And I was trying to think about my favorite dream in the series that we see. Harry has a lot of unsettling dreams, or dreams, right, that maybe later we understand were Voldemort, or like things he was doing, or things going on in his head, or dreams he was having. I'm trying to think if there's a particular one that stands out. I don't know. It wouldn't be like a favorite one to have necessarily, but I like that Hermione, just like all of us, has like exam concern dreams. I think she has a dream that she like missed her exams, or she failed, probably in the 5th year in the OWL's section of the book. And as someone who was always striving to be the best student. I definitely relate to that. All right, so we're going to talk about dream interpretation today. I'm going to talk about definition and history of using dreams as, like, again, interpreting or as divination. We'll talk about where it shows up in the Harry Potter series, and then I'll talk about some tarot cards I associate with dreaming. So I studied dreams in college, strangely enough. So I have some books, actually. So I'm going to be reading a bit from Our Dreaming Mind by Robert L. Van de Castle. I've linked it in the show notes if you want to check it out. It's called A Sweeping Exploration of the Role That Dreams Have Played in Politics, Art, Religion, Psychology from Ancient Civilizations to the Present Day. And I'm just going to read a bit from the opening chapter. So dreams are seen as these portals between our inner and outer worlds. Dreams has always fascinated humankind. Many speculations have been advanced to account for their presence. They may be visits from an external god, the wanderings of the dreamer's soul, a shift in dimensional planes, enabling the dreamer to peer into the future, the reworking of unresolved emotional tensions from the preceding day, or fallout from some temporary disturbance of the brain or digestive system. The various theories offered to explain dreams will be dealt with in later parts of the book, but for now, they say they would like to offer some challenging comments from individuals who have struggled with the perplexing problem of deciding whether dreams are real. The ancient Greeks wrestled early on with the question of which was most real, waking reality or dreaming reality. Socrates, who lived in the 4th century BCE, describes in Plato's Theaetetus, Theaetetus, as engaging in a lively intellectual discussion. Socrates puts forth the question, what proof could you give if anyone should ask us now at the present moment whether we are asleep and our thoughts are a dream, or whether we are awake and talking to each other is a waking condition? Theaetetus was not able to come up with any satisfactory proof that they were awake, and acknowledged that they could be both be dreaming. The issue was later addressed more personally a century later by the Chinese philosopher Zhuangzi. He dreamed that he was a very happy butterfly who was quite pleased about himself. He suddenly awoke and pondered the question of whether he was a man dreaming he was a butterfly, or a butterfly dreaming that he was a man. Thousands of years later, such questions are no nearer to being answered. The distinction between reality and illusion is questioned continuously in Lewis Carroll's famous book, Through the Looking Glass. In one memorable passage, Tweedledee comments to Alice that the Red King is dreaming about her, and were he to awaken, Alice would be nowhere, because she is only a sort of thing in his dream. Tweedledum confirms that Alice would go out like a candle if the king were to awaken. When Alice complains that their loud talking may wake the king, Tweedledum counters, well, it's no use your talking about waking him when you are the only one of the things in his dream. You know very well you're not real. In her frustration mounting, Alice insists, I am real, and begins to cry. Let's see here. What else do I want to get into? So yeah, there's a lot of things talking about, right, that we don't really know why we dream, right? Obviously they're encountering here this idea of, like, what is reality? Is reality in our waking world or in our dream world? And where that goes. There's lots of art that depicts different aspects of dreams. Salvador Dalí, famous for the melting time clocks imagery, talks about dreams unlock our imaginations. Anything becomes possible within them. Even time can be fluid, right? Which is what is depicted in The Persistence of Memory by Salvador Dalí in the famous painting with the melting clocks, if you've ever seen that. Which also gets into this aspect of, right, what is time? We have, right, basically created the idea of structured time, right, that there are 24 hours and 1 hour is this long and each minute is this long, and that is how we as humans try to account for our time currently, or in a lot of the world. But time in a lot of ways exists, but the way that we mark it is contrived, right? Like there's no sort of, I guess there are reasons, but there's no particular correctness to the way that we perceive time right now, as the present, right, has no duration. It comes between the past, which has ceased to exist, and the future, which has not yet started to exist. We like to chop time into bits and pieces. Like I said, that we label seconds, years, minutes, weeks, months, and days in order for them to be into a line so that time proceeds predictably, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Such predictability gives us an illusory feeling of control, where we can then print calendars, construct watches, and anticipate meetings in our appointment books. But again, who is to say whether our conception of time is correct? It is, after all, only a current conception, and even the most universally agreed upon conceptions have been shown to be false. Like the idea of a flat earth has evolved into our current conception of a round or spherical earth. Yesterday's impossibilities become today's possibilities and tomorrow's facts. Let's see here. What else do I want to share about this? But yeah, so it sort of just continues to get into the idea, right, that there is something unique about the dreaming mind, right? Again, when we are dreaming, these different ideas of time are can sort of just allow us to recognize that in our waking world, again, that it doesn't mean that it's correct the way that we mark time or that we see it in this linear way, and that maybe, right, dreams are again like another way for our brain to put things together, to mark time, to understand our internal dreamscapes. And there is something, like I said, unique about the dreaming mind, right? That just feels very different from the waking. Again, I think a lot of times it's explained as, I was going to say unsatisfying. That's not exactly what I want to say. Like, it's unsettling. That's the right word. And some people have, right, like thought that maybe dreams are, will enable us to see the future or things that are inaccessible to us during the daytime, right? That in our dreaming state, that we are traveling at different speeds, or right, we are under the cover of darkness. Like, it's very, I don't know, a lot of other animals don't spend as much of their lives sleeping, or they have different sleep habits, or we understand things like hibernation, or when animals in the ocean still like move and swim when they sleep. Like, there's just a lot of very different things that we just don't really understand about the why about dreaming in particular, and the quality of our dreams, that maybe it is this like entering a new dimension of time and getting a different perspective so that we can again kind of make more sense of our waking world. And this book obviously goes on to talk a lot about history of dreams and where different cultures like and their ideas came from. There have been dreams that have changed the world. But yeah, so the idea of dream interpretation, again, is using things, symbols, colors, things from the dream to perhaps interpret things in our waking world about, again, maybe ourselves, about humanity, about our futures and our past, and sort of integrating that, which is why it can be so subjective, I think. And that is where in the Harry Potter series, right, like, again, our characters meet some resistance or disbelief when it comes to dream interpretation. So dream interpretation is an aspect of divination class in the Harry Potter series. It's also known as auranomancy, a method of divination that involves analyzing dreams. So saying that certain symbols in one person's dream and another are going to mean similar things, or perhaps that they will. It's covered at Hogwarts in the 5th and 6th years. They use the textbook, The Dream Oracle by Inago Imago in the book, and Professor Sybil Charlani considers dream interpretation to be a most important means of divining the future. You may remember a part in the series where Ron and Harry are being tasked to talk about their dreams. I believe they're supposed to, like, over a month record, like, every day when they wake up, like, what their dreams were, and inevitably they do not do so. And so they come into class and they're having to partner up and share about their dreams. And Ron says, "I never remember my dreams, you say one." And Harry says, "You must remember one of them." And I believe we even get Harry in his own head saying, like, "I don't want to share my dream," because he's having unsettling dreams, like, about Voldemort or other things. Or perhaps if it's in the 5th book, like, I know he has a lot of dreams about Voldemort and Cedric after Cedric dies in the 4th book, and that's very unsettling. And so Ron says, "Well, I dreamed I was playing Quidditch the other night. What do you reckon that means?" And Harry says, "Probably that you're going to be eaten by a giant marshmallow or something." So again, we have some of our main characters making light of dream interpretation, or, right, sort of extrapolating the ridiculousness of it. And like I said, Harry doesn't seem as particularly, like, he doesn't think it's useful. He usually makes up the dreams that he shares in class, and he says that dream interpretation couldn't tell him what his dreams meant. Parvati Patil and Lavender Brown appeared to consider this particular subject very useful, and they discussed their dreams very seriously in the first class they had on the subject. But they are well known to have divination as their favorite class, so they're a lot more diligent students in it than we see of our main characters, or the people that we kind of get their view on. Let's see here. What else? I'm trying to think of dreams that come up in the series. So on Harry's first night at Hogwarts, after the start of term feast, Harry has dreams that give him actually significant hints about significant events that would happen over the school year. He dreams that he is wearing Professor Quirrell's turban and is talking to him, telling him that Slytherin was his destiny. When he tries to pull the turban off, it gets tighter and tighter, right? And we know later on that Harry's arch enemy, Lord Voldemort, was hiding under Quirrell's turban as the sort of like parasitic entity, using Quirrell as a pawn to retrieve the Philosopher's Stone. And we also know later on that Harry is a Horcrux, and so a lot of this like internal dialogue, or sometimes things he feels when he has a lot of his rage in the 5th book, when people find him very annoying and teenagery, right? We can also kind of imagine that might be because he has this literal part of someone else's soul in his body, of Voldemort. And so, right, perhaps the part of him that contains Voldemort's soul was telling him that Slytherin was his destiny, right? That's another interpretation of that. In the 4th year, Harry dreams that he has fooled an impartial judge and becomes the Hogwarts champion in the Triwizard Tournament. And he went on to win the whole thing, impressing Cho Chang when he's trying to date her. And as we know, again, if you get to the end of that book, the judge was fooled. Harry did become the champion, though not by his own doing, because Harry, he grabs the trophy at the same time as Cedric, so they wanted to have this dual Hogwarts win, but Harry gets declared the winner of the tournament because Cedric dies, and he is not there to claim his other half of that. And Harry does have a relationship with Cho in the following year, and so like some of Harry's dreams that he's not sharing them in class, but he is sharing them with us as we are the reader, learning about him from there. And again, like I said, in another class later on, Harry and Ron have to keep a dream diary as part of their divination homework, but they don't do it, and they don't want to discuss their dreams. And so they don't take it serious. They write down made-up dreams, most of which are tragic events of themselves because they know that Trelawney likes predicting Harry's death, and then she later tells them to do it again for the next month. And that's kind of what we hear about dream interpretation in the books. Again, it's very interesting because Harry has a lot of dreams. And again, as we get later in the books, a lot of his dreams are sometimes, right, not even just in his sleeping state. They are taking over his waking state, which again is different than how most people experience dreams. And most people don't have another person's soul embedded in their body. So we can, right, account for a lot of this as being part of Voldemort that is inside of him that sort of like takes over at times. But Harry will basically like black out and then like basically be able to not just have a vision but like see through Voldemort's eyes. Or right when the snake attacks Arthur Weasley, he sees through the snake's eyes, and the snake also, Nagini, also has a Horcrux in her. And so we get that almost all of these parts of Lord Voldemort's soul are interconnected, which again makes sense from what we understand about canon of the series, but fairly interesting as we think about that a lot of Harry's dreams, right? And again, in the 5th book, it becomes this contentious piece that Harry has a dream about Sirius and about him being with Voldemort, and Voldemort had sort of projected that into Harry's head. It was not real, and Harry thinks it is because he did have this sort of visions before. Again, they're sort of different because he's having visions from what we can understand, that like he says, it's not that I was dreaming, it's like he's dreaming and then this vision like shoves through his dream ends, and he goes into this state of like, now I am Lord Voldemort and like I'm seeing through his eyes. But anyway, I'll get off my soapbox there. But so the cards I pulled, the tarot cards I thought had to do sort of visually with dreams. I pulled all of these from the Therapist Who Tarot deck, prompts by Drea Bloom and images by Rebecca Bloom. And I went off of sort of imagery alone, and interestingly, I only pulled Cups cards. And Cups cards are water affiliated, right? Our wateriness, our emotions, I would say, are also sort of similar to our dream state, right? Oftentimes, again, I think the parts we remember about dreams are not just that they're confusing, but that they're heavily infused by whatever emotions that we've been really feeling. So first I pulled the 9 of Cups, which is about comfort. And the journal questions on the back of this card say, how would you describe your ideal romantic partner? What are your love languages? And how would you describe your perfect day? So with 9s, right, we're reaching near completion. We have the wateriness of the cups. We have a person that's almost like meditating with their cups, or like a sound bowl sort of experience depicted on the card. I pulled the Queen of Cups, which is about calm and harmony. And again, she is sort of depicted as holding this cup that's almost like a cauldron, like it's a large pot almost. And she's shining kind of out from her. And it says, what question must you answer as soon as possible? What matters most? And what conversation have you been avoiding? And then finally, I pulled the 7 of Cups, which is about illusion. And on the card, we get this sort of like mirror image of like 4 cups at the top and then 3 at the bottom with different colors, and they are in this sort of mirrored way. And the prompts on the back are, what is the best advice you've ever gotten? What has life taught you? And what is something you would like to prioritize in your life? So again, sort of these like soul searching questions that I think sometimes do come up in our dreams. And then I'm going to pull a card to see what the cards have to say today on this topic. What else do our dreams have to teach us? I'm going to be pulling from the It's Grow Time deck, 48 cards for do good, feel good business owners. I don't know, this one just feels right today. So And this is by Chantel Davis Gray. Okay, it says, write down 3 wins from the last month. They can be tiny wins. Yes, they still count. So right here, our dreams are telling us celebrate, right? Acknowledge things that you've accomplished, and not just, right, all the things you still have yet to do, which again, as we enter Virgo season today, sometimes Virgo can be very perfectionistic or planning and structure and thinking about the future, but it also is reminding us to do reflection, right? Reflect on the things we've been doing a great job at in the last month, and also reflect on things that, right, we might want to be letting go of, or that, right, maybe we had on the to-do list and we're figuring out that, like, actually, I don't think that's that important, right? I had these big wins and maybe it can wait for the future, or maybe it's just not as important as I thought it was going to be. So, all right, so if you'd like to join me on the journey of using the tarot for transformation, click on the link in the show notes to indicate your interest to get more info. I'll also be posting the landing page where you can actually get kind of all of the ideas and dreams for what is happening in this live course I'm going to be teaching, and what happens when we want to transform our lives through the tarot. Links for the tarot decks I talk about will always be in the show notes and on my website if you'd like to look at them or purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Just as a reminder, the podcast comes out daily, Monday through Friday for all of 2025. And you can email me, me@CamilleASaunders.com, with your thoughts, questions, and more. All right, see you soon. Bye-bye.